We're starting with the 3 short-term indicators for the stock price, and we're starting with those for a reason, because we're going to look at NIO, BABA, and a stock that I think may have had a short squeeze today. And this is Monday. It's after the market closed on April 7th, 2025. There's your date and timestamp. Let's talk NIO first. The trade volume for NIO, fewer than 67 million shares traded, not a huge volume for NIO. You've also got the sentiment, which of course is going to continue to be weak, I think, until we see profitability. At this stage, that's what it feels like for me. So I jumped to the third one. The second one is represented on screen by the white lines. You see the uptick and the spiking of the FTDs here in the recent history. And then you've got the only absence was the time when the NIO stock price really ran, the yellow line showing that strength, but also we had big trade volume during that time when we saw that. So we saw the FTDs, failed to delivers, drop off when the naked shorting probably wasn't going on. And at that same time, big trade volume, lots of interest, positive sentiment, and all-time high stock prices. So with that, let's now move over to Alibaba, because this is an interesting one. I think it's going to be the leading stock as an indicator for us with respect to the Chinese stocks anyway. That's why I've been tracking it. If you'll note, yes, this is a very profitable company, and yet they do have FTD showing up. The crazy thing is FTDs are showing up, and this is during the time that Alibaba is actually doing share buybacks, which means I think there's a possibility for some kind of a small short squeeze, and maybe we've even seen that recently. But if these FTDs continue, I'm not sure that the share buyback really makes that much of a difference in the super short term, especially if, for example, the trade volume isn't elevated enough to really make it squeeze. And here's what I mean. This is the one I'm going to give you as an example, because I think I watched this thing. I know I started watching it before the market opened, because that's when I first noticed it had been trading at about $4 per share. And now after hours, it's up over $37 as I'm recording this video. But this is the FTD data, and this is a very short-term listed stock. It hasn't been on the market very long, but what you'll note here is there was a reverse split for this. I think it was in December, which is right in here. And the month before it, there were some spiking FTDs. But here's the crazy thing. If you look at the first indicator, the trade volume, on the average day, outside of today, this stock normally trades fewer than 20,000 shares. 20,000 shares. Today, over 16 million shares, and it went from $4. Actually, let me show you what it did. Got that set up too. This was the move today. It's hilarious. And this is what it looked like on the chart for part of the day. Look, I'm just pointing things out and sharing these things because concept is the key in my mind. These things matter when they matter, and it's so hard to try and time or catch or that kind of thing. I'm not in NIO stock for a short squeeze, but if we see craziness, I don't know if it'll look like something like this. I don't know if it'll look like what we've seen with NIO stock before, where this certainly could have been a short squeeze from $3.50 to over $55 in less than 6 months. Yeah, that could have been a squeeze. But this one today was just interesting. And I think this might be the kind of craziness that we'll see if, for example, some shorts, some firms are over leveraged and get margin called and end up having to close their doors. And we could see more craziness with the markets overall. This is a true to form, this is me, unconventional way that I track things is if I'm not seeing, let's say on this, Trump threatening the 50% tariff on China amid trade tensions, only 161,000 posts. As soon as I see 1 million posts, I'll be like, okay, this is maybe going to make a difference. This is maybe a peak on this quote unquote news or news narrative, as I like to call it. But for me, the numbers just aren't there yet. I think it's still early, I guess, is what I'm thinking. And I think there could be a lot of volatility still ahead. By the way, I'm going to share this link. This man is a beast. And I mean that in the most complimentary way possible. Darius Dale is a beast when it comes to research. This is one of the reasons that I pay attention to what he shares. This is, and he's got tens of trillions of Wall Street money following him, along with thousands of retail investors. One of the things that he has tried to do is put together and share things in such a way that regular retail investors have an opportunity to learn. And I believe that he and his folks have been on the sidelines and out of stocks since March. And I would say they're doing okay because of that. But he talks in this most recent video posting that he did, which was recorded earlier, but I don't have the date off the top. So I'm just sharing it so you can check it out. He did talk about how if things go really poorly with the US, and this is frankly more of a concern to me than what's going on with the NIO stock right now, is serious recession and or let's say the market's losing 40%. That would probably affect a lot of people. So again, I'll share the link in the description. And final thing, one of my contacts reached out, wanted my take. And so this is what I messaged him, and I'll just share it with you. I'll just read it to you so you can at least hear. This is my thought. If we see a short-term bottom for the markets overall, it could come by this weekend, but it probably needs the Fed to step in, which I think is unlikely, or PBOC, the Bank of China, essentially, to do something. Or maybe Trump and Xi will talk or have some positive development. The latest news is that doesn't seem to be happening. They're going the wrong direction, but we'll see what happens. So that's short term this week. Let's see what happens by the weekend. But in the meantime, things could get much worse and last until June. If that happens, it will hopefully be the Fed stepping in with QE at that time. Things could get a lot worse. And I do not like the fear mongering. That's not at all what I'm trying to do. But these folks who are more experienced at a much higher level than I am, who come from a range of backgrounds and are sharing and have been sharing, I've been tracking their stuff, I should clarify, for months, if not years in some cases. And so I pay attention to what they say when they all have different takes on things and their views sort of align as they are right now. I just think we're at a time where absolutely the one thing that I expect is more volatility, and that's for the markets overall. What does NIO Stock do? Who knows? And it may not matter until profitability at this stage, unless we get that indicator. And I think that Alibaba would be a leading indicator if we see big money flow into Chinese stocks. However, that still doesn't mean that NIO will get that same money flow, because again, if they're not profitably, I just fundamentally, I think that's a big deal. And also for crushing the short thesis, I talked about it recently, and maybe I'll even get to comments and be able to discuss or talk about those a little bit. For right now, I'm just happy that for most of the day, the YouTube comments were actually working. And so I was able to respond to some comments. I have had issues for the last 2 weeks with YouTube. Very frustrating to be limited in what I'm able to upload and when, and then the comments issue on top that I can't even have dialogue like I normally like to do with my viewers and my subscribers. So hopefully, knock on wood, we will have good things moving forward with at least YouTube so I can get some more content out. Either way, and regardless, I hope you have a good day, a good week ahead. I'll be back with more content when I can. God bless you all. Good luck to us all. I'll see y'all again very soon.